Before I start, just don't start, okay? I know I'm late. It's been a few months now since this edition of The Hobbit has come out. In fact, I got both of them so that I could talk about both here on this video. So it wasn't the cheapest thing in the world, but hey, if you like and subscribe, I can write it off as a business expense. These are meant to come as a set with editions that were published 1 year and 2 years ago of The Silmarillion and The Lord of the Rings. So there's a good chance that you have already decided if you're going to get one of these two editions or not. If you haven't, then maybe this video will be helpful to you. Regardless, that's not the primary purpose of this video. Actually, the primary purpose of this video is for me to rant. Okay, that's not actually true. Although I do plan to rant in a bit, let's talk about these editions, what you get out of them, and whether it's worth the price. The first thing I'll say is that on that note, on the note of price, I don't know what these are going for right now, and the prices fluctuate so much, you know, secondary market, you're buying it on eBay, or you're going to the official site, or whatever. It's going to change enough that I'm just not going to bother. So, whatever the price is, less, more, okay? So this is the what they're calling the limited edition or special edition or whatever. This came out in 2023, and it's a deluxe edition. I think that's the wording we're using. Whereas the other one, this is a slipcased, quarter leather bound version of The Hobbit. So both of them are essentially the same guts on the inside. The pages, the printing is the same. What's different is what comes with each edition and kind of what its purpose is, right? This is your I want to actually read it copy. This is your I want to display copy. These editions, like the others in the set, are illustrated by the author. I mean, the original already was, and the standard editions of The Hobbit are already illustrated by the author, but here they pulled together dozens of additional drawings, illustrations, designs, that sort of thing. So it is packed with a little bit more, and stuff that you're used to from older editions, things like the trolls in Chapter 2, you get the same illustration, but you get a nice full color version of it here. Every page is printed in 2 tones. You've got black for the standard text, and then green for the chapters and titles above, for the poems, that sort of thing. Anything highlighted gets highlighted in green. In the front and back covers, you open that up, and you've got loose leaf maps. So the smaller map up front, this is supposed to be Thorin's map of the Lonely Mountain. It's got the runes on the back of it. It's that detailed map of the Lonely Mountain. In the back cover, you've got another loose leaf. This is the full kind of Wilderland map that you get standard with The Hobbit. And of course, one of the most distinctive features of these editions would be the writing along the pages. So this isn't the spine, these are the pages themselves that get the runic alphabet on there, so you can say The Hobbit or There and Back Again by J.R.R. Tolkien in his runic alphabet. So the idea would be you can stack these next to each other and they look pretty cool on the shelf. And I think they do. I think if you turn those spines in so that you see the text coming out on your bookshelf, I think it looks pretty cool, all 3 of them next together. You've got this runic script. You've got the fancy kind of calligraphic Tengwar from the ring rhyme on The Lord of the Rings, and then on the Silmarillion you have it's not calligraphic in the same way, but it is definitely cursive Tengwar, so it's slightly fancy Tengwar versus the Lord of the Rings one's very fancy one. But that's on the page side. What if you flip it around? How do they look on the shelf next to each other there? Okay. There's my first problem. Publishers, I'm going to give you a few things to stop doing. Just stop it. And that is mismatched spines. I mean, look, I'm hardly the first person to complain about this, but if I'm going to have 3 books that are supposed to be a set and they're going to sit next to each other on the shelf, then they need to line up and match up reasonably well. How long have all of us been complaining about this and publishers can't seem to figure this out? But whew, okay, well, that's rant number 1 over. We can forget about that for now, because I think most people are just going to turn it out, pages out anyway, because that's the cool feature of the book, right? This edition does come with a ribbon bookmark. The pages are relatively heavy, acid-free. They should hold up just fine. One thing I will note, though, about the binding is if you look up here, you'll see this that kind of cloth at the binding. It's meant to look like a sewn book, a Smith sewn binding. It is not that, it is glued. Now, how big a deal is that? It's not a huge deal. It's pretty standard procedure in publishing to glue instead of doing sewn binding. It's just much, much more expensive to do Smith sewn bindings, so I get it. And again, that little fake out cloth at the top, that's pretty standard too, and it does make it look a little nicer. But what it means is that the binding won't hold up as well as the decades wear on if you keep this book for a long time. And also, as you're reading it, when you hold it up, it doesn't lay flat. That's one of the distinctive characteristics of a sewn binding, is that it will lay flat if you just hold it like that. These ones do not do that. On the Lord of the Rings version, they actually kind of had me tricked on the quarter leather bound because it held open really nicely. I thought, gosh, is this sewn? No, they faked it there too, but it's just so heavy and so thick that, you know, except for the first few and last few pages of the book, it actually holds open pretty darn nicely. I should also mention the cover, or the dust jacket here on this. Okay, so we've got a dust jacket that I think is pretty darn attractive. But one thing to note about that dust jacket is that it is matte paper. So there's no gloss to it, except on the gold lettering, of course. However, be aware that with a matte paper dust jacket like this, it's not going to hold up as well over time. In fact, my Lord of the Rings version, which I've only pulled off the shelf a few times to thumb through over the last couple of years, it already has a big fat nick right on the front of that paper cover. Now, again, how big a deal is that? That's totally up to you. Is this an archival version, or is this something you actually want to take down off the shelf and read and kind of let it get beat up, right? As for the cover itself, pretty standard. Again, kind of a matte paper finish on this, except for the glossy gold. The decal on the front you don't see unless you take off the dust jacket. The back is blank. Again, pretty standard stuff. Okay, so that was the deluxe edition. Now let's talk about the ultra premium super giga deluxe, whatever, the slipcased version, the quarter leather bound version. Is it nicer than the other one? A little bit, yeah. But I do have one huge, giant, glaring, well, I don't know about a pet peeve. It hasn't been around long enough to become a pet, but it's this. So the quarter leather bound version comes with everything the other one did, but usually a little bit bigger and better and bolder. Within the cover itself, mostly what you get is the exact same thing. The page weight is similar. The illustrations are similarly printed. It's the same black text with the green highlights. It's everything else that comes with it that's a little different. Obviously, quarter leather bound, obviously slipcase, but then you also get this booklet in here. It's called Mathoms. It's about, 60 or 70 pages of supplemental material on The Hobbit. So information, history, critiques. It's even got some poetry, some early poetry from Tolkien that obviously served as some kind of inspiration as he was building out Middle-earth in the 1920s. It also has his lecture on dragons, always very interesting. So this little booklet, Mathoms, is really cool. It's very interesting, and I'm glad that I have a copy of it. However, how dare you? How dare you put it in the slipcase like this? It looks awful. It looks terrible, doesn't it? You put this on the shelf next to the Silmarillion and the Lord of the Rings, and that kind of sage green really pops out, and it draws the eye away from the books themselves. Even if this is on its own, it looks very strange. But especially with the other two, it's a deal breaker for me. If I hadn't already bought it, I might not buy it. The Silmarillion did something similar, and I did complain about it then, but that was much thinner. That was a smaller booklet that is even harder to detect in the slipcase if you're just looking at it on the shelf. This, there's no way around it. You can't help but notice it. And this may or may not be a huge thing, but it also makes it a lot more difficult to remove and especially to reinsert both or either book into the slipcase. Seriously, this thing is so hard to get back inside. Like, what exactly is stopping it? Oh, you know what? It's the book itself. Okay, because the leather gets tucked under, okay, so the cloth gets glued down over that quarter leather bound part, and then when it's in the slipcase, it jams up against the cloth, and I can't get it in. So in order to get both of them in there, you have to take out the Hobbit, put the Mathams thing with it, and then maybe, possibly, one day you'll be able to get both of them back in the freaking slipcase. It's those little things that you've got to consider. I'm not exactly a UX designer, but that was poorly done. Okay, but once we take it out, let's take a look at this one. Like I said, the actual pages are very similar in the way that they're printed, but some differences here apply. Now, the pages are going to be in gold rather than with that blue with the runic alphabet. You're also going to get a few more inserts, which is both good and bad. Let's start with the maps. When we pull out the map from the front cover, it's the same thing. It's Thorin's map of the Lonely Mountain. Okay, that's great, but it's thicker. The page is thicker, and the map is quite a bit bigger, which is cool if, say you want to put it on your wall or something like that. That's great. But when it comes in the book, there's enough of it that it doesn't really allow you to close the cover all the way, which does bother me slightly, if only because the tighter you can keep a book closed, the longer it's going to last over the years. And this is something that all three editions, the Lord of the Rings, the Silmarillion, and this one, they've all done this. It's just kind of been building up as a little bit of a peeve for me over the last couple of years. So now it's finally to the point where I'm thinking I'd really like to close these books and keep them nice for a longer time. Similar kind of thing with the back cover. It's the same map, again, thicker, bigger, and keeps you from closing the back cover as well. There are two other inserts that come with this one. I really like this one. This is a facsimile of Tolkien's rendered version of Thorin's letter to Bilbo, which he wrote in Tengwar. And then in the back cover, there's another facsimile. This is the cover that Tolkien did for the original published edition of The Hobbit. All right, now on the cover itself, this is where I feel like we're getting a little bit more premium. Yes, the inserts are great, and especially what you're really paying for is this, if we're being honest. That Mathams edition is pretty cool. But the cover is cloth instead of paper with a quarter leather bound. This is not super high quality leather, okay? So nobody's gonna write home about it. But it's good enough to look good on your shelf for at least some number of decades. Once you insert it into the slipcase, which I'm doing without the Mathams edition because it's really difficult, then you'll see that decal kind of pokes through on the front. So there you go. It's out, it's in. It looks pretty cool. I had somebody on the Lord of the Rings version comment, what's the point of a slipcase if you're just gonna cut a hole in it, right? And there's something there, although I would say it's not really the purpose of the slipcase to stop any and all, matter from getting onto the book. It's mostly about letting that book sit tightly in a contained space that's less likely to tip, less likely to warp. All right, in case you couldn't tell, I want to like this. I do like slipcased, leather-bound editions. I like quality books, something that's going to look great on my shelf. But I am very frustrated with this one. If you can find a copy, maybe somebody's going to sell their Mathams. Go ahead and grab that for a few bucks on eBay. I don't know. I don't know if it's worth getting this entire thing for that because the information there can mostly be found elsewhere. But if you're a casual fan who wants to get something fancy for your shelf and you want that little extra bit of information, great, it's there for you. If it were me, I don't know if I can recommend this version. I can recommend this paper cover version a lot more easily, as far as justifying the cost. So if you're a collector, if you're a completionist like I am, you have to get all three, fine, go for it. But my instinct would be to say this would make a great gift for someone else in your life who's a huge Tolkien fan. But I don't know if I would buy this for myself again if I could do it over. Hit the comments below, like and subscribe on your way down there, all that YouTube stuff. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. I will see you next time.